Again, about a week to go before the end of the month. We're almost done with June. Hard to believe we only started it not too long ago. And the entire month has been an interesting view and contrast about the temperatures. Started off pretty mild and then finally worked our way into the 90s, and we haven't stopped the 90s since then. We've also gotten into hurricane season, where things have also not been all that active yet. We've had a couple of storms, and we haven't had much of anything else going on. So for right now, I'd say that's some pretty good reasons to celebrate. Nothing huge in the way of any severe weather either, and I think it's going to be hopefully staying that way. Now, we do have the possibility of some severe weather coming up close to us. We'll take a look at that forecast here in just a little bit. But in the meantime, so far, again, for Monday night, don't really have too much of anything going on. Everyone's a critic. The Weather Center 8-ball is not taking to the heat very kindly at this time. This is Weather Overtime. If you are just joining us, welcome to the show. You may not have seen this before. We are under the tag of weather on Twitch. We are also listed on YouTube. We're coming to you on the News 12 YouTube page. And if you're watching this on my YouTube page, that's a recording replay so that you can see it at any other point in time. If you have YouTube or if you have Twitch, go ahead and say hi, drop a comment into the stream chat function on Twitch. We'd love to see more about where you're from, what you're doing here, what kind of weather you're experiencing where you happen to be at. So go ahead and check in on the chat function on either Twitch or YouTube. Would love to hear more about what's going on with you there. Coming up, we'll talk more about hurricane season, which again, not that much going on, and for a pretty unique and interesting reason, we are not having that much in the way of storms just yet, but we'll talk about that in just a little while. Plus, this is National Lightning Safety Awareness Week. We'll talk about today's topic. We'll also talk a little bit more about what's going on with the forecast into the rest of the first full week of summer. So more on that coming up here in just a little bit. Plus, are we going to have any record highs this week? It's possible, but it's just not entirely likely. And a good view of what we're seeing here for right now is the high temperatures are going to be hot. There's no question about that. We made it up to briefly 97 for a high temperature today. The record high 101 set back in 1988. That was a very hot summer, as I recall, back in Kansas. 47, the record low. Wouldn't that feel nice right about now? 1972, and a low temperature of 75, just above where we should be on the temperatures there. We'll take a look at the record high temperatures for the week coming up here in just a little bit, so stay tuned for more on that. Current temperatures ranging from the 60s, I bet that feels nice, up in Andrews, North Carolina, to the 70s and 80s. I think Chattanooga's having some difficulty cooling off at the airport, 95 degrees there. A few 70s, a few lower 70s around the area. Ellijay, Georgia, you're at 72, 75 in Cleveland, Altamont, and everybody else. 72 in Scottsboro. Still not too sure how accurate that is, but a nice place to take a look at there for that. Downtown Chattanooga, as we showed you a little while ago from the Bailey's Heating and Air camera, everything quieting down. View of Lookout Mountain out there in the center part of your screen, and hardly a cloud in the sky from earlier on this afternoon. So beautiful conditions there. Leftover sunset lights. Again, we're on the other side of the solstice, so we're going to be losing daylight over the next several days and weeks. Not quite as much at first, but then August and September will really start to lose a lot more daylight out there. And Sylvester the Spider hanging on for dear life, looking out over the lights of Chattanooga Airport off in the distance. From the area of the News 12 studios on the Patriot Concrete camera, Lookout Mountain close-up view there, and fading daylight off to the west. A beautiful sunset tonight, no question about that. And with the current conditions, things are a lot nicer when it comes to humidity. More on that in just a little bit. 2475, I don't know if this is due to construction or a broken line, but several of the street lights are out, so it's a lot darker than it usually is at this location. You can see the lights of Signal Mountain thanks to a little bit of sunlight left over, and the lights up there not impeded by any humid or very smoky air. So that's good to know at this time, but a little darker there, so watch yourself around 2475. A little bit of daylight left. A few folks out on the footbridge for one last stroll tonight. Very busy Coolidge Park earlier on. Looks like a few folks just hanging out and enjoying the weather down at Coolidge Park on the North Shore. And last but not least, taking a look at our Chattanooga Zoo webcam. Beautiful view looking off toward Erlanger Hospital over on 4th Street, and also seeing again what's left of that sunset light out there. So a beautiful evening. Not too bad for a Monday, thanks to our latest cold front that rolled on through. That front has done a good job of giving us winds out of the northwest. That is also doing a very good job of escorting in some very dry air. So the dew point is way below the air temperature, and that difference gives us a relative humidity of 33%. That is bone dry air for this time of the year. It's not good news for the foliage. It's going to be leaching more moisture out of the weeds and the grasses. So I would not be surprised in the next couple of days and weeks to see some more wildfire notices possible. So something to think about when it comes to fire safety out there. Otherwise, again, those breezes out there doing a very good job of keeping the temperatures maybe not cooling us off too much. It is 88 degrees at 9 o'clock, almost 10 o'clock at night, but it is at least a little bit less in the way of sweaty conditions out across the area, so definitely some good news on that. Now, our next couple of storm systems will be on the way into the next couple of days. So what we're going to be seeing is not much at first. There's our cold front down to the south of us that's heading on down toward the Great Lakes, or heading on down to the Gulf from the Great Lakes and around the area of the Great Lakes. High pressure doing a good job of escorting in some dry air pretty much almost right off of Hudson Bay. That is going to, again, keep the dry air in place for now, but as high pressure makes its way off to the east, that's going to start to return more moisture off the Gulf, and we're going to see more moisture for both humidity in the air down where we are and to interact with our next storm system coming through way back up to our north. As this area of high pressure leaves, this storm system will start to head down, and that will be technically our next quote-unquote big weather maker. Believe me, I hate making the quotation mark signs as much as anybody else. But what we are going to see is a couple of interesting things happen. First of all, that area of high pressure scoots over to the east of us, and that continues to keep us in some very warm numbers. Hot conditions, triple digits possible down to the south of us. In the mornings, we're going to see those not cool conditions continue, upper 60s to lower to mid 70s. Atlanta may not go much below 80 degrees for a low temperature coming up as we go toward Wednesday. That front gets a little closer to us. Best chance of anything involving showers or thunderstorms, such as they are, is going to be in the afternoon on Wednesday. And then as we go into Wednesday afternoon and evening and Thursday, that front starts to slow down. The main energy of the system goes all the way out toward the Canadian Maritimes, and it stretches this front as you see the red and the blue interchanging there, or intersecting, going along, interspersed, I guess. My grasp of syntax is kind of slow for tonight, but basically what happens is the energy leaves the front behind. The front doesn't have anything to carry it forward, so this becomes a stationary front, which is just going to wobble in place for a little while. The front will continue its way on down to the south, so on Thursday we may see a few extra showers and thunderstorms. We're not looking at a lot of them. And then into Friday, that front finally gets its way down toward the south of us, and that will give us less in the way of showers and thunderstorms because this air here will be on the dry side, and that is before the next storm system gets organized all the way back to our northwest. This one coming in as we go from Friday into Saturday and sticking around for the weekend. This could give us a better chance of showers and thunderstorms into the next few days after the first front rolls on through, which again should be here somewhere around the area of about, again, Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, we'll be seeing better potential of showers and thunderstorms there. Now, first off, what we're not going to see is thunderstorms. We have that potential tonight well on down to the south of us, and then well to the north of us, News 12 viewing area down here, Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, and North Carolina. Tonight, the best threat will be back to the north with that system that I just showed you, number 1, coming through the northern plain states. Then, as we go into the next several days after that, we'll see our storm system give us again into around the area of Tuesday some thunderstorm chances. The scale up here, pale green, indicates again just generic thunderstorms. We're not seeing that much for anything involving that into and around Tuesday. Now, Wednesday, we see a very widespread area of possible thunderstorms. Back to the north of that, we've got that dark pine green color. That is where we may see some marginal threat of severe weather. But the thing is, it's not in the News 12 viewing area. It's knocking on our doorstep, yes, but it's not giving us anything really major coming down this direction yet. We don't see anything else in the way of major problems coming up. Now, what we're also going to see into the next few days, and let me get the 7-day forecast going here so we can take a look and see what's going to be happening. We may see a brief reduction in temperatures, but we're not really looking at too much of anything in the way of cooler weather. That much has pretty much left us behind for the foreseeable future. So what we're going to be looking at into tomorrow is mid-90s, upper 90s. Again, we're having some issues with our forecast numbers here getting changed. So these numbers not quite what I was forecasting earlier, but it looks like we may be seeing again some potential problems out there with the heat sticking around. So for right now, again, what we're going to be seeing is the potential of not much of anything in the way of cooler weather coming up anytime soon. So we do have, again, the potential for some thunderstorms Wednesday into Thursday, and then a break on Friday when that first front moves through, and then we don't get much of anything there. We do see more chances of showers and thunderstorms as we go into the area coming up toward next Monday and into Tuesday of next week. Again, that is where we see the potential of some possible areas of thunderstorms sticking around, but we are just not looking at too much of anything taking place in the way of a drop down in temperatures. Now, again, maybe into the mid-90s, lower 90s possible on Thursday if we get enough clouds and showers and thunderstorms to kind of block the sunshine. But until then, that is as cool as it gets around here again, so to speak. So right now, we're just not seeing anything that says that this is what is going to be going on. So in the way of anything cool down wise. So we've got the possibility right through the end of June coming up on Sunday the 30th. And again, Asteroid Day coming up. We'll talk more about that coming up later on this week and why it is so vitally important for us to have a good space program, why the planet should have a good space program. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But just remember these numbers right here as we go through the course of the next several days. The pattern is not going to be changing. Now, according to the short-range forecast model, the Climate Prediction Center, which issues short, medium, and long-term forecasts, this one goes right about to Independence Day, and we're showing again normal would be just smack right down the middle of what we should be getting at this time of the year, highs in the high 80s to right about 90 degrees. This is showing better chances of us getting a lot hotter conditions into the end of the month and into next month. So it does not look like too much is going to be changing around here. Add to that, if we go out even further, this is the 8 to 14 day outlook. The 30-day outlook going into late July is showing also the potential of that heat sticking around in some form or fashion. Now, we do see a little bit of a lesser hot conditions out west of us, but it is possible that we're not going to be getting too much of anything in the way of help from, say, the Canadian Rockies or Hudson Bay or the North Pole. An Arctic front would be beautiful, but they just don't happen this much this time of the year. Precipitation in the next few days expected to be, next 30 days I should say, expected to be pretty much right about normal chances. Drier to the north, much more possibility of rainfall down to the south of us, and that mainly due to the tropics causing some issues there, maybe some more areas of moisture coming our way. Now, the good news at this time also is that we do not have any heat alerts in effect at this time. Orange is again heat advisories, and those are issued when the heat index is expected to go over 105 degrees. The excessive heat warnings have been canceled from over the south central United States. There's still a lot in effect for Utah, California, and that again will continue as that very hot weather sits in place here. What we're not going to see for right now is any advisories, at least just yet. Now, if we get into the next few days, it is possible that we could see some temperatures very much on the hot side. But the big question as of right now is, what are they actually going to be coming up when it comes to anything involving record-breaking temperatures? Is it possible? Yes. But is it likely? Doesn't look like it. These are the standing record highs and the years they were set coming up over the next several days. And as you can see, all of these are in the triple digits. Now, most of the forecast includes right about 98 for a very hot temperature coming up into the next few days here. So we've got to get at least to triple digits in order to have a chance of tying or breaking some of this. When it comes to the end of the month, this is where we can really rack up the heat very hot. So 104, 106, 107, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, those will be the record highs there, some of which haven't been broken for a better part of 60 to 70 years. So for right now, it looks like these records are in no threat of being topped. It is possible, but again, if we get enough sunshine, if we lose the heat, if we get more humidity to really heat things up around here, yeah, we could see some record high temperatures, but it's just not showing out as anything involving that happening to us. So some very good news, at least where that is concerned, but it is a good possibility that we could see more problems out of this. Now, using the brand new, if you haven't seen this before, the CDC, Centers for Disease Control, and the National Weather Service have developed a new chart, a new map, a guide, if you will, to be able to help explain what is coming up where it comes to a heat threat. This is something that is very important because heat is a killer, just as much in its own way, but not the same way as severe weather, damaging winds, large hail, tornadoes, stuff like that. This gives everybody, especially people like physicians, emergency room doctors, emergency managers, city planners, anybody who wants to take a look and see what might be happening in the semi-near future. This is a good way to determine what might be happening. It goes on a category of 0 to 5. So we are seeing again, or 0 to 4, I should say. I'll have to redo my graphics on there in just a little bit. Green, of course, is no threat. 1 is just minor effects. Very hot. Again, anybody who doesn't have adequate cooling outside is going to see some problems with the yellow number 1 category. Number 2, moderate, affecting most individuals sensitive to heat, especially those outdoors who don't take breaks and have a cooling system on there. Impacts possible in some health systems and in heat-sensitive industries. Anybody who's working outside in the fields, anybody who is doing road repair, anything that's not going to give them a big cool down due to the environment they work in. Red becomes more widespread emergency, affects, again, anybody in those areas with infrastructure, health systems, and heat-sensitive industries that are more widespread. Extreme on the 4th level, or the 5th level numbered, I should say, 4 magenta. This is, again, rare and long-duration extreme heat events, little to no overnight relief. That's when your low temperatures only go about as far down as about 80 degrees or even hotter than that in some locations. So this right here is the worst of the worst. Now, knowing that, this is what we are going to be seeing around the area for tomorrow. And again, I need to redo the numbers, but the colors still stay the same. For today, we had minor to moderate effects of heat. As we go into tomorrow, the day 2 forecast really starts to paint a more orange picture, so more of a moderate category being seen here. And then as we pan out a little bit, very major possibility of heat stress for Atlanta in Georgia, down toward the coast and up into the lower Mississippi Valley, where again that extreme color is where we're going to be seeing the heat indexes possibly around 105 to 110. Now, we're not seeing a lot of that, thanks in part to our elevation, thanks in part to the fact that the heat is building up out and down this direction. So we're not getting a lot of it, but we are seeing, again, the heat really start to build out this direction. Remember, we have no heat advisories here, but we may see them start edging our direction in the course of the next several days. So we could be looking at some extremely hot conditions, especially west of us. So that is something that we are really, if you work outdoors, we're going to have to really pay attention to that. Working outdoors with anybody, keep an eye on everybody else. Everybody else, keep an eye on you. Let's make certain that we have, again, good hydration out there to make certain that we've got enough water to put back what your body sweats away. That is going to be imperative over the next few days. So please keep that in mind out there. All right, let's go back to the tropics. Let me make certain I'm on the right one here. Not that, see, that's a new one. Let me just go double check that for a second, because if this works the way that I think it does, we are going to be seeing, let's see, 7-day, yeah, well, it was. Now it's down, okay, that should be a yellow, not an orange line, and that is a 20% possibility of development in and around that area of the Gulf. And what we're looking at is well on down to the south of us. We've got a disturbance rolling right across the northern portion of South America. It doesn't look like much right now, and it's going to be interesting how this really pans out, because in the next few days, it's surrounded by dry air except for right, excuse me, underneath it. And that is, as that dry air surrounds it, as it moves over the next few days, it's going to have just enough of a pocket of available moisture to develop into something. But again, we're looking at 20% possibility. We're not looking at anything really huge. Now, here's the other thing we're seeing, and that is that the Sahara has opened up wide and is sending tons of dust and sand out over the Atlantic, and that can act as a filter for anything that develops. It basically robs the surface heat effect of the oceans, and it deflects just enough sunlight away to make certain that whatever forms down here is, first of all, in a very dry and dusty atmosphere. These storms that form around this area, they come off of the Sahel, Western Africa, and they move out into the Atlantic, and they depend on the very warm, moist air above the ocean to be able to grow. When that's not there, when it's very dry and it continues to be dry, usually that quashes anything into and around the area of seeing any development in the way of new storms. So for right now, things are what we're going to be seeing for the time being. Is just should be, if this continues. And let me just go a little farther forward into the future. We see even more dust coming in off the Sahara. It's going to come in kind of fits and spurts. There'll be some, and then there won't be a lot, and then there'll be some, and there won't be a lot. You see sort of the gaps, the in between here and there, and that is where we may see the potential for more dust helping to keep the amount of storms lower, and that's fine. The only problem is that with more sunshine on either side, with warmer water, depending on where that pops up, there could be more danger where those are located, and those areas that don't get the heat out of the surface of the ocean, the heat just continues to build and build and build and build. The available convective energy, or ACE, ACE, builds and builds, and then the storms that tap into that, where that is not, energy has not been released, that is where we could see some very powerful, very fast moving, and very fast developing storm systems. So that is what we're looking at for right now. J-Dub on YouTube, thanks a lot. Yes, glad to delve into anything involving the future forecast here. That's what we do. Thank you very much for checking in and joining us. Nice to see some folks out there on YouTube. If anybody's out there on Twitch and wants to say anything, again, drop your comments into the chat function, and we'll be glad to see a little bit more about what you're doing out there. So for right now, good news in the tropics. Again, hoping it stays that way. We'll see what goes on out there. But right now, those are the only systems that we really have any concern over. So hopefully, again, it stays that way. It just really all depends on how things work out. We'll let you know a little bit more about that there. All right, today is the second day of National Lightning Safety Awareness Week. This is where you learn more about when you're outdoors, what to do when lightning is around, how lightning works, how thunderstorms develop lightning, how powerful lightning is, the reason why lightning is called the underrated killer for a reason. The National Lightning Safety Council has a great video available if you'd like to see it and find out more about what this is all about, what this week is all about. It's a great opportunity to learn a little bit more about what's going on. We've included this on our social media pages where you can see a lot more information about this. So stop by my social media pages for more. You can also find out more about our heat index that we've been talking about, the map. We're posting more information on that. Thank you very much, Lee Ann O'Kelly from Chatsworth, Georgia. Way down here, you can see a rainbow against beautiful rainbow of colors against those beautiful array of gray colors out in the background. Looks like a rainstorm or a thunderstorm off in that general area. So thank you very much, Lee Ann O'Kelly, for sending in a beautiful rainbow picture there. If you've got pictures, please send them in to us at pictures@wdef.com. You can drop them to our social media pages. You can also see those pictures you just saw on our social media pages. You can also see them at wdef.com/photos. That's also where you can drop yours off and see what everybody else has been submitting for the Langley Roofing weather window picture of the day. And thanks to everybody for some marvelous pictures over the course of the last few days, weeks, and months. Some really incredible pictures out there. So thank you very much. It's great to see some amazing weather photography out there. All right, so for tonight, since it is National Lightning Safety Awareness Week, our question of the day from our friend in roofing.com, weather poll from wdef.com/vote now. What year did National Lightning Safety Awareness Week begin? 1999, 2001, 2005, or 2010? Andrew Harrison, my co-anchor, voted to be contrarian. He chose 2005. It actually is 2001. We've been doing this now for 23 years, and the really cool thing is that the number of lightning fatalities since this began has dropped significantly. How much did it drop? Stay tuned, and we'll talk more about that coming up here on our next weather quiz going into tomorrow. So if you'd like to see more about that, go ahead and stay tuned, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that means coming up a little bit later on. But thank you, friendinroofing.com, for being our weather poll of the day. I think that should just about do it. That's plenty to talk about in one evening. One more thing before I go anyplace, and I want to mention this, because this was a very big thing on our newscast tonight. Another shark attack out in Hawaii. And this is something that is exceptionally need to know before you go on vacation. You're in the ocean, even on the Gulf Coast where it's relatively shallow. These things can happen to where a lot of water gets pushed on shore by a storm system a few hundred miles away, or the ocean currents move in such a way that they push a lot of water up against the shoreline. Well, that water's got to go someplace, and sometimes you will see the water pushing outwards, and you'll get caught in this, and it's like getting shoved backwards, and you could be pushed out as much as a quarter or a half a mile by what are called rip currents. Now, if you've ever been caught in one of these things, you know that you just have to kind of go with the flow, or you kind of do a good job of swimming sideways and out into calmer water. You get out that direction by kind of going perpendicular away from that. But if you try to fight the rip all the way back to the shore, you're going to wear yourself out. And even if you're a good swimmer, we could be talking about the possibility of drowning. So we want to try to avoid that if at all possible. Now, the National Weather Service has a ton of weather information regarding what's going on here, how to spot these things from the beach. You may notice this channel going outwards, and if you get caught in that, that's the water surging back out into the rest of the sea. So if you try to avoid that area, this is what lifeguards are trained to look for, to make certain that you can see due to the texture, the color, and the movement of the water. That is a good way to see that. And this is, again, a good way to get pushed outwards and will really tire you out if you try to fight against it. So, again, if you go to the beach, know more about rip currents, or as they say, break the grip of the rip. That's a good way, again, to make certain that you're paying attention to what's going on the beach. And again, don't swim back. Don't struggle against the current. Try to get away from it, off to the sides. Go at a perpendicular angle and head away from the rip. That will help you on that to make certain that you're not going to tire yourself out all the way on through. All right, one more check of everything, and I think that should just about wrap it up. Well, we've been on for 30 minutes, so that's pretty good for a typical night's work around here when it comes to our weather blog. So we'll go ahead and wrap things up for now. We'll have more with Chip Chapman in the morning, so stay tuned for more with him starting at 5 a.m. And, of course, we'll have more coming up for you on News 12 tonight, on News 12 at 11, on the morning show tomorrow, and I'll be back with more on what's going on with the weather tomorrow night on Weather Overtime on Tuesday, the last Tuesday of the month, the 25th, coming up a little bit later. Questions, concerns, ideas, email me at aonic@wdef.com, and you can catch more than just Weather Overtime at our website down at the bottom of the screen, wdef.com/weather for your forecast and all sorts of other neat and interesting stuff there. So tune in and see what you got. Drop by our website and take a look around. And again, if you got ideas for stories or anything, please let us know. We'd love to see what you're seeing on there. That should do it for tonight. I'm going to wrap things up and send you back to your regular Monday night programming. Stay tuned for more with News 12 on air and online. And